Thank you for joining us on Access Asia. I'm Delano D'Souza. Coming up, tensions high in Bangladesh on the eve of the anniversary of Sheikh Hasina's ouster. Deep divisions remain despite a pledge from its new leaders to unite the country. 6 years after being stripped of his overseas citizenship of India, author Aatish Taseer is out with a new book on his excursions in exile. And a new K-pop band poised to break fresh ground. The 5-member group includes 2 North Korean defectors. We begin in Bangladesh, where tensions are high on the eve of the anniversary of the uprising that led to Sheikh Hasina's departure. Despite the interim government pledging to unite the country, deep divisions remain. Jennifer Benbrahim reports.
Bangladeshi armed forces move in on protesters in Dhaka's southern district of Gopalganj. Violent clashes erupted between supporters of the former PM Sheikh Hasina and the student-led movement the NCP as they held a rally to commemorate the anniversary of the uprising they spearheaded.
If this government doesn't ensure that Hasina's Awami League remains banned in Bangladesh, then let it be known all of Bangladesh will be blockaded and this blockade will not be lifted.
A year on from the protests that led to the toppling of Hasina's oppressive 15-year rule, Bangladesh has been marked by chaos and unchecked violence. More than 1,400 people were killed in weeks of anti-government clashes that started in July 2024. Hasina eventually fled to India and an interim government was created, led by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus.
That's good. Coming back home. Thank you.
Yunus pledged to follow through on the wishes of protesters, a return to democracy with credible elections and constitutional reforms. However, the country has been mired for the last 12 months by growing political uncertainty and religious polarization. The Islamist party Jamaat-e-Islami returned to politics more than a decade after its suppression by Hasina's government. Jamaat-e-Islami and the student-led NCP are now trying to fill a political power vacuum. For Bangladeshis, a movement that was meant to unite has become a flashpoint.
We want the country to run smoothly with everyone working together. We don't want the politics of animosity. We want to see everyone united.
Now we believe that the steps we took in July last year means that no matter who comes to power next, they won't dare to do the same.
The legacy of last year's uprising remains to be seen. Interim leader Yunus has delayed elections, and exiled Hasina faces trial for crimes against humanity. But India is yet to extradite her back to Bangladesh.
On the eve of the Indian election in 2019, writer Aatish Taseer wrote an article for Time magazine where he called Prime Minister Narendra Modi India's divider-in-chief. Modi would go on to win the election. A couple of months later, Taseer's Overseas Citizen of India status, or OCI, was revoked. Since its revocation, Aatish Taseer hasn't been able to travel to India, a country he spent a significant portion of his life in and where his mother continues to live. Taseer is out with a new book, A Return to Self, Excursions in Exile, and we can bring him in now. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. What was your gut reaction when you found out your OCI had been revoked?
It happened and it was sort of staggered. So I had a kind of initial warning while I was on holiday and it really, I mean, it was a kind of pit in one's stomach because you knew, my mother tried to sort of reassure me and we thought we'd be able to contest it, but very quickly, I was pretty sure that there was a kind of finality to it. And by November, when it had happened with such malice, I thought, wow, like I really have to gird myself to say goodbye to people, to a place I'd lived in my whole life. It was pretty shattering in some ways, emotionally.
Your father was Salman Taseer, a Pakistani politician who was assassinated. You were estranged from him. He wasn't in your life growing up. So what did you make of the fact that the government used his existence as a reason for taking away your OCI?
Well, that's exactly right. You see, I hadn't met him till I was 21, and I'd been because I was a writer, I documented almost every part of our relationship. And when he died, I was estranged from him again. And all of this was so much in the public realm that I thought, like, it would almost be strange or ridiculous for them to kind of turn it against me. But of course, that's exactly what they did. And when I was sort of applying for the OCI or whatever, it had been an extension of the person of Indian origin card. So I had always had this status in India, and since I was a child. And so, in a funny way, I felt like I was almost hiding in plain sight because they then, and then more importantly, they also recast me as a Pakistani or an intruder in the public sphere. So they used the troll army to kind of make me seem like a very suspicious element in a society where I was always at home.
You write about growing up in India, but being part of this anglicized world. You went to Cody International, an American boarding school in India, then college in the US. Why was it important for you to go back and learn Hindi and Sanskrit later on in life?
Because I thought that the kind of remove that the Indian upper classes lived at from the rest of the country was dangerous, politically dangerous, as well as culturally dangerous, and that there would be a tremendous backlash. So all my books kind of anticipate the rise of a figure like Modi. And I knew that the kind of cultural revolution that we were going to experience in India was kind of in the offing. And I thought, as a writer that intended to live in India and to work in India, I needed to do a little more to kind of bridge the gap that our kind of colonial history had left us at.
You're unable to travel to India now, and it's something that impacts your life. Your grandmother, you write about her death in the book, and how the only comfort you found was in your husband's arms, and the thought of going to an Indian restaurant that night. How did that make you feel?
For me, it kind of added this element of absurdity that I've lived with in my whole life. I didn't have a normal relationship with my father. When he was assassinated, I watched on YouTube and social media, these scenes of his sort of assassination. I never went to the funeral. My grandmother was very real for me. She brought me to India, and then to have her kind of just pass out into the world or pass away from the world without any rites of mourning, without anything to make that death kind of real for me. It was another layer of absurdity. And of course, it anticipated the fear that one day it would be like that for my mother. And that kind of absurdity is very hard to live with.
I'm sure. Your article in Time magazine took a lot of bravery on your part. Knowing what you know now, I have to ask, do you have any regrets?
I don't. For the simple reason that I don't think writers can live like that. I think a writer, if you start to let fear prey on your mind like that, it's kind of death for you as a writer. And for me, the role of the writer is probably the only thing I have as a kind of line of continuity in my life, something that kind of gives cohesion to my life. So I would never surrender that.
You write quite candidly about your sexual experiences from when you were still figuring yourself out. Did you do that because, in a sense, you feel more free now?
I do that for two reasons. One, it's very important for me when I think of people in India to kind of give them this feeling of not, I wouldn't say hope, but a sense that like happiness and domestic happiness especially is possible. There is possible to live a full gay life, and I want to broadcast that to people in India as a kind of just sort of signal that this life is possible. And the other reason I do it is because my sexuality was a very strange thing. I'd always been with men, and then I'd had these relationships with women, and I suddenly so I ended up very late to the game, so to speak, and I dealt with other aspects of my life. Nationalism, religion, fanaticism, but sexuality was something that I just never really got to as a writer, and I felt the need to deal with it very acutely, suddenly, late in life.
You say you found home, and in a sense that you've been freed of proving your Indianness. In a sense, you're a British and American citizen, but with the likes of Donald Trump in power, Farage gaining ground in the UK, are you wary of the future at all?
I mean, very much so, very much so. In fact, one of the things that this book deals with is this idea in Spain of the convivencia, which was an amazing moment of plurality and hybridity and liberalism, and it was shattered in a moment. And I feel like that kind of, we've had a moment like that in the West. In these last 70 years have been a glorious moment in migration, in the development of new identities, in a kind of people seeing each other through other people's eyes. There's been, but all the time as that has been happening, there's also been a backlash building. And I think we now know what that backlash looks like. And so I think we live in a very, very tenuous moment where we have to kind of weather the storm and hope that the shape of our society as we know it and love it will survive.
Atish Taseer, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much.
Now, a K-pop group is poised to break new ground with the release of their debut EP, The First Verse. Universe is a 5-piece band that includes 2 North Korean defectors. Despite their different cultures and upbringing, the band have forged a bond through music.
하나, 둘, 셋. 안녕하세요. 유니버스입니다.
Meet Universe, a K-pop band with a unique convergence of backgrounds. The 5 members hail from Japan, the US, and even North Korea. Hyuk, who lived in North Korea's North Hamgyong province until age 12, defected to the south in 2013. An experience he references on the group's debut single, Shattered.
I've been through a lot in North Korea. Shattered captures the feeling of my life breaking apart. I'm sharing this story for the first time. I wrote it drawing on the emotions when I heard that my father in North Korea had passed away.
Fellow North Korean Sok escaped with his father and grandmother when he was 20 years old. A chance for him to be exposed to K-pop music.
I'd never seen a video like Gangnam Style before. A friend showed it to me, and the music video and the song really blew me away.
The Universe's debut comes as reports suggest Pyongyang is cracking down on the consumption of South Korean culture, including K-pop.
That's it for this edition of Access Asia. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.